there's 5 motivations behind every choice that we make, right? There's need, want, status, love, and fear. And fear of loss is the greatest motivator of all. I mean, for people who are in sales, they're trained and taught that, fear of loss of the deal is the ultimate. So a sale delayed is a sale not made. So that fear of rejection, that fear of failure, can be with us. And if we allow it to dictate our purpose, then we're always in that struggle. We're always waiting for that other shoe to drop where, what did I not do correctly? What did I miss in this? How come I failed again? And when we are in that place, it's very difficult to see what our purpose is, or what our purpose as a salesperson or a mother or a father. We've got to have purpose.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mental Purpose Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Lobos. And today we're going to get deep. Not that we don't get deep on most of these episodes. We're just going to get really deep with an author of 22 different books, fiction and nonfiction, from the esoteric and the spiritual world, and then all the other stuff that we do, right? The personal development stuff. So my guest today is Branch Isole. And in this conversation, I'm telling you right now, could have gone on for 3 hours. It was so intriguing to me, being an audience member, right? I'm just the guy on the mic. I'm also an audience member listening for you, as you. And so we're talking into tapping into fears and like what comes up when you're lost at sea. Branch was talking about a fiction book that he wrote, and we were getting deep into that and the human psyche, achieving balance in your life, choosing money over purpose or purpose over money, controlling your destinies, exercising your power of choice, the 5 motivations of people, fulfilling a need in a world that can't be fulfilled inside of you, replaceable versus irreplaceable, processing through external needs, fulfillment, consequences, getting spiritually grounded, our purpose as men, connecting with source, esoteric connection. Again, spiritual grounding is going to be present throughout this. And then at the end, Branch goes through these 12 lessons of life that are really freaking cool. I've never heard it put like this. You're going to absolutely want to listen to the end. I did not strategically put it at the end. It's just how it happens. I don't map these things out like that. So I'm going to read you a quick bio on Branch. Then let's get rocking and rolling. This is an hour-long episode. So Branch Isole is a thought leader, author, and speaker. He's written 22 books. He's worldwide known for contemporary short stories that they reveal emotions and issues often experienced but not often voiced. And that's important to know, because how many of you right now are sitting there saying, I wish I could explain how I feel to someone. And the other side of it is, I wish someone would listen to me and ask me how I feel, because I need to get this out and I feel embarrassed or scared. So we're going to talk about that stuff today. And we're really talking about getting yourself out of the wheel, the cycle, the rut, and creating something for yourself that isn't run by the external. You start to understand your purpose and your mission for this planet. And it's not as a husband and a father and a provider and a worker and this as your identity and that and a follower of God or whatever. None of those things. We're talking about pulling all of those back, untying those strings and the hold that it has on you, and actually finding you and revealing your authentic you and revealing that purpose and that path that you're meant to be on, that your spirit, your soul is meant to be on. Remember, guys, go to menonpurpose.net, where you can find all of our cool stuff, our courses, our masterminds, our retreats that are coming up this fall and winter. You can download our free Purpose-Driven Formula ebook and mini course and a ton of other stuff. Make sure, if you haven't already, join our Mental Purpose community on Facebook. Got it? Here we go. All right, Branch, 22 books. I got to know, how do you write 22 books? Not the topic of this whole discussion. I just know a guy that writes 22 books has a lot of information. He's got a lot of experiences. He's got a lot of stuff he's been through. So I was just fascinated by that alone, in addition to the other stuff that I learned about you. And so let's start there. How do you how do you have that much experience? Where have you come from and been in your life to be able to write that many books on those experiences?
Well, first, Ian, thanks for having me on. I've really been
Of course.
looking forward to our time together. And yeah, I have
Me
had a
too.
lot of experiences. Real quickly, I grew up as a military brat, traveled around a lot in my early years, was blessed to live in different places and be around different cultures and different people. So it gave me an interesting uh, look at life, with all that travel. After high school, I went to college in Texas. After college, I went into the corporate world for 15 years in sales and marketing. Uh, did great, was very successful. But as everyone, on that ladder of success finds out, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah.
And when you invest in, certain parts of your life, other parts of your life are sacrificed. So, that's an interesting experience to have. Lots of people have gone through that. And when I got done with my corporate experience, I was unhappy with myself and a little disillusioned with the person I had become. So I completely went in a different direction. I got into entrepreneurship early on, many, many years ago, and was founder and owner of 5 different small businesses. After that, I decided, I needed to know more about myself and my place in the world. So I went on a journey of discovery to try and find truth and what that looked like and how it applied to me, as a person, as a family member, as a member of a community. And in that venture, I came across and was involved with a lot of different kinds of spiritual belief systems, religions, did a lot of study. At 45, I decided to go back to college and get a master's in theology. It wasn't my intent. I just had a desire to know more about uh, Christian religion as opposed to some of the other religions that I had been studying and belief systems and those spiritual paths. So I went back to college, got a second degree, and then I decided to write my first book. And that's how it came about. I was moved to write a book about the search for truth for seekers and searchers and for fallen away Christians. By that time, I had realized, lots of people have been on this path of struggle between who I am in the world and who else am I. And so the degree and the opportunity to sort of bring together all of my experiences were the foundation of my writing. And I just started writing. I wrote a nonfiction book, was my first book, again, about,
Hmm.
how to find a spiritual path. And then one day I was out, we were living in Hawaii, and I was looking at the big island across the channel there, and I thought how frightening it would be to be lost at sea. And with that
Hmm.
trigger, I wrote my first short story, and that's what it was about. All the kinds of things that would go through one's mind if you were lost at sea. And so from there, it just started, and the fiction started coming, and I just started writing, and I kept writing, and 25 years later and 22 books later, I've got a whole catalog of different topics and different themes, nonfiction, fiction, and then lately, in the last few years, I've been focused on articles about end times.
Hmm. Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. There's so many things I want to go back to. The first one that really, well, the latest one that really piqued my interest is what were you tapping into when you were looking out at the Big Island and trying to understand what it would be like, what someone's fears would be like? Were you tapping into your own fears of helplessness or of letting go or of just being adrift in the world, which maybe you were as a corporate guy. I mean, it sounds like you were very successful. However, most corporate people that you talk to, money is that measure of success, yet they are kind of just drifting around, lost to their purpose and their mission. And that's one thing that we really focus on in Men on Purpose is understanding why you're here. Regardless of what you believe, whether it's why God put you here, what the universe's intention, what your spirit and soul's journey is, whatever it is, there is a reason. So were you tapping into something that was deep down inside, a big fear of yours to be just a drift out there somewhere? What was how did you get that? How did you get that genesis?
That's a great question because, as I was thinking about our time together today, Men on Purpose is such a great title, but it's such an elusive concept for so many people, especially young people, who are just starting out on their career path, just getting into the marketplace, right? We're excited. We want to succeed. We want to do the best we can do. We want to be a great employee or a great team member. And yet our focus is not always on, what's the purpose here? What's the goal that
Sure.
I'm trying to achieve as part of this team or on my path? And at that point in my life, I was midlife at that point, and I'm sure that some of my experiences tied right into that thought. My initial thought was, if you were lost at sea without a chance of being rescued or little chance of being rescued, what kinds of things would go through your mind? And of course, you start to reflect, right, on all the things that you've experienced or the big things that you've experienced, the successes, the failures, what you thought you did that helped, what harm you might have committed or encroached on someone. It's a whole, because you've got nothing but time. It's just you and the water. And however long you last, every minute, is an opportunity to reflect and think about where I'm at now and what brought me here. So it can be very frightening when you start to think, well, this is the end. And what have I done? What good have I done? What not so good have I created? And that's where it came from. And I'm sure I dug down and, remembered a lot of things that I was, some of them I was proud of, some of them I was ashamed of. So.
What's up, guys? I'm so sorry to interrupt the episode. I just need 1 minute to share with you all the new and exciting, amazing stuff we've got created here at Men on Purpose. First of all, thank you for listening to the podcast and supporting the movement we're creating for all the men of the world. Next, you've got to check out our new website, menonpurpose.net, where you'll find all kinds of cool stuff, including links to our podcast and the free Men on Purpose community. You're also going to find our new free purpose-driven formula mini course and ebook and links to all of our new coaching programs and products. Look, I've had so many of you ask me where to get started with your personal growth journey or where you can go to level up. So I put this thing together, this free ebook and mini course, and we're going to be talking about and coaching you through a really light version of our purpose-driven formula, which is our foundational formula. And for those of you who are ready now, we got you. Listen up, whether it's becoming the best husband, being the best dad, quitting that job that doesn't serve you, or just understanding how to put you first, we've got what you need to align with your authentic self and find that true fulfillment and live a life with no regrets. Look, we're helping men with structure, support, and sustainability. That's what you've asked for, and that's what we deliver. As we lead you through proven and tested curriculum that focuses on formulas to help you get farther faster. So make sure you go to menonpurpose.net, click the button to download our free, powerful, purpose-driven formula mini course and ebook. And while you're there, make sure you check out some of our amazing products designed to help you find your purpose, stop self-sabotage, and dial in your mindset, skills, and habits to evolve into the best version of you. Why? Because we want you to live and have the best life possible. No regrets. So, mentalpurpose.net, let's get back to the episode. Sure. Do you think that's the scariest part, being lost at sea? I think it's a great analogy for so much. You are adrift in a medium that you don't understand as much as the land with gravity and only so many angles that something can come at you, right? Because on land, there's no up or, whatever you would call that. There's no up towards you. Where in the water, there's your 360. vulnerable, isolated. And it's interesting because do you think that the biggest fear is the potential of dying, or do you think that, like, from your experience in this book, obviously you've never been lost at sea, or do you think it's an understanding of a life wasted and the regret piling up of all the things that could have or should have yet weren't? Because I think a lot of people deal with that, by the way, and they don't have to be lost at sea. They're lost in their living room, drinking beers for 4 years straight after work, complaining about their life that they have, yet not pushing hard enough to actually make a change in that path. And they are lost at sea. They are thinking about and starting to be resistant to, or get into resistance with, the regrets and the resentment that they feel from the choices that they've made or the choices that they haven't made, which has given them a result. So I think it's very interesting. Is lost at sea the fear of death, or is it the fear of not living?
Well, here again, what's the purpose, right? So you're lost at sea, or you're adrift, you're lost in your living room. There's 5 motivations behind every choice that we make, right? There's need, want, status, love, and fear. And fear of loss is the greatest motivator of all. I mean, for people who are in sales, they're trained and taught that, fear of loss of the deal is the ultimate. So a sale delayed is a sale not made. So that fear of rejection, that fear of failure, can be with us. And if we allow it to dictate our purpose, then we're always in that struggle. We're always waiting for that other shoe to drop where, what did I not do correctly? What did I miss in this? How come I've failed again? And when we are in that place, it's very difficult to see what our purpose is, or what our purpose as a salesperson or a mother or a father. We've got to have purpose. That's the key to having balance, is having a purpose. And when we don't have that purpose, then being my first instinct at that thought of the story was how frightening it would be in terms of loss of life. You are not going to survive this. Okay, when you come to grips with that fact, and you're still there and you've got all this time, what else do you think about? What processes, what analysis do you go through in your mind? If life is just going to end at some point and you finally accept that, okay, now what do I think about? So you think about, what is my purpose? What was my purpose? And how much of that purpose did I succeed in accomplishing? And it's just, it's all on our minds. Everything. One of the great things about living, and one of the great things about our brain, is that we can change thoughts, instantly. I do exercises with my clients. I ask them to think about when they graduated from high school, and they mentally can see that. And then I ask them what their pet's name is, and they can go to that place. Who did you come in contact with first thing today? And every time you ask a question like that, their thought changes to that specific idea or that purpose. And that's how quickly our thoughts can change. So we can redirect our behavior by redirecting our thoughts. The other thing that's so great about our brain is we can only focus on one thought at a time. Now, sure, I can be driving in my car and listening to the radio and also thinking about something else. So I'm multitasking. But the reality is my thought process is only on one specific thought at a time. And with that in mind, then, if that's true, and we know that it is, then we can change our thoughts at any time. So I can change my direction and my focus just by realigning my thoughts. So once we've overcome that fear, whatever that fear may be, death, rejection, loss of the sale, divorce, family issues, whatever that fear is, we can then focus on the purpose. And once we can focus on the purpose, we can readjust our thoughts and then readjust our actions, which will readjust our habits. And once we've readjusted our habits, we can readjust our character. And once we discover, who we are and what our character is, we can control our destiny. And so these processes that we go through, when we're focused and we stay on task, we can accomplish great things, whether that's in our family situation, in our work situation, in our personal situation. But as long as we don't have that purpose, we don't have a direction. And when we are directionless, we're left adrift.
Yeah. Do you think that's why people choose money over purpose? Chasing money, chasing success, that more ego, external driven motivation. Do you think they chase money over purpose because it's scary to try and figure out what your purpose is, or because it's more fluffy and pleasure driven to chase money?
Well, we live in a world that's fundamentally motivated by money. So,
Yeah.
and we grow up, in economies where the ideal is to, get a job, get a career, become the number one person in your field and reap all of the rewards and benefit that brings through wealth. When we're in our early stages, teens, 20s, 30s, our focus is basically on economic survival and how do I get ahead in my field of endeavor, my industry. It's only when we start to mature, and that can come in many forms, but it's when we start to grow as a person that we realize, I need balance in my life. I need to make a living. That's true. But I need relationships in my life, and I need a purpose in my life. If I'm going to have a family, once we hit adulthood, we start wearing a lot of different hats, right? I'm father, I'm husband, I'm a member of my community, I'm a member of my work team, but we start to wear a lot of different hats. And the four corners of our relationship, even as young children, but certainly as adults, are love, approval, agenda, and spiritual grounding. Because everyone needs approval. We grow up and we want love from our parents, then we want love from our peers, then we want love from, our adult relationships. That approval,
What did you say those
that
were again?
need,
Those four things?
love, approval.
No. What was it called?
Oh, the four relationship cornerstones.
Got it.
Yeah. So we're, life is all about relationships, right? And it's a journey of relationships. When we're in healthy relationships, that encourages growth and balance. And growth happens when we learn new responses to replace old pattern behaviors. As we grow, we sort of get in this mindset or this response mode of when something happens, I respond in a certain way, or my response is always the same sort of action. When that happens and we only respond in our old pattern behavior, we don't grow. We don't grow as people. We don't grow as individuals. We try and achieve balance, which is the stability between our mind, our body, our soul, and our spirit, the person we are in reality in this physical world. And as we try to stabilize, our mind, body, spirit, and soul, in our relationships, we react. So in our relationships, we're always looking for love. We're always looking for approval. We always have an agenda. What is I'm trying to get out of this particular relationship? And then we all have a spiritual grounding. And you can think of the spiritual grounding as the easel upon which our life story picture is placed. And for people who don't have, adequate or good spiritual grounding, then their focus is on, how do I get ahead in the world? How do I make more money? How do I get more stuff? Right? Because we are in the world and we are of the world. And because the world is fundamentally wealth driven or power driven, we get caught up in that cycle. We get caught up in that wheel of, how do I get ahead? How do I become more successful? And as long as we're on that treadmill and we don't realize something's missing, which is the spiritual aspect of who we are, we have a soul and we have a spirit, so it's part of who we are. But if we're not feeding it, if the pilot light is lit, but there's no fuel coming to it, then our focus is world driven. And we always wonder what's missing, why I got the new car 2 years ago and now I want another one. Why I live in the house
fair.
that I live in, but I want a bigger house. So we're always trying to fulfill a need that the world really can't fill. It can give us the things that we believe will fill that need. But when we don't have that spiritual grounding, that little piece that's missing from our balance puts us out of balance. And, when it's of the world, then it's all about me. And when it's all about me, I'm missing all the valuable parts of my relationships.
It's interesting because I used to sit in my real estate office and I was successful by anybody's measure or standard. Not the most successful. There were many guys doing much more than I was. However, I used to sit there and I understood this concept. Did you get this when you were in, I mean, maybe not at this capacity. Did you think about this when you were in business, yet just not take action? Because that was me. I thought about this stuff like, I really don't want to go out for drinks tonight with these people. I really honestly don't like these people. And it's not that I don't like them. I just don't like that they're on this same path as me, and I know it's wrong, yet they don't. They're just completely okay with it being an externally driven motivation, money, drinks, sociability, that kind of thing. And I used to sit there and get annoyed with myself because I'd go, that these relationships are not real, right? You know that if you went to another broker, or if you went to another career, these people would never call you again, right? Like, and I would battle myself inside, yet still make this decision to go out in the world, right? And get that need fulfilled in the world instead of internally. Did you ever find that when you were in business, or were you just oblivious to it?
Well, I found it when I was there, obviously, because I left that lifestyle and that,
Sure.
that journey. But when you are there, when you're in that place, now, whatever place that is, you're there as long as it fulfills the needs that you have and the wants and the desires. Now, it may be fulfilling those needs. And like you said, there may be a piece that you recognize that's false or fake or not. It's a fabrication and it's not someplace you want to be. But, everyone has choices, and the choices we make are all filled with consequences. And, growth happens when we make a choice and we have experienced the consequence and we realize it's not in my best interest to choose this again. For the person who, hates to go out to drinks with his coworkers, but does it, it's filling a need that he has or she has at that time. Everybody is operating sort of at a different level but at the different
Sure.
level at the same time. This is the quality of the lessons of life. There's 12 lessons of life that we all experience. And we experience them at different times and in different manifestations. And they appear different ways, and we choose different choices. But the lessons are all the same for us. The problem becomes we're getting those opportunities to go through the lessons at different ways and means, but they're coming at us, one or more at a time, but it changes from day to day. One day I'm dealing with a situation where how responsible am I? And then the next time I'm dealing with something that how dependable am I? How reliable am I? How accountable am I? And as we go through our daily life, we're being tested by these lessons over and over again in every situation or with every person or event that we come in contact with. So if I'm going to go out for drinks with my team, I've got to deal with, the lessons that come in that scenario. How much am I going to drink? How am I going to respond to the conversation? And this is where all the pressure comes, and sure, I say, well, I really don't want to go, but, my career may depend on it. This deal may depend on it.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to, no, if you're on a team, you better not be the outcast, because you're going to get undermined or you're going to sabotage, all those kinds of things. And this is the process of daily living. But again, for those people who are in that and they realize, they're in it and they want to do something about it, you've got to look outside of that. And where we have to look is our spiritual grounding, our spiritual growth it's what makes us whole. The great line in Jerry Maguire where she says, "You complete me." Mm-hmm. Well, that's what it is. We're in the world, we're of the world, but there's also a piece missing from our world. And that's the spiritual part. It's part of who we are. And if it's not active, if it's inactive, then we keep going through the process and wondering, there's something missing. I know it's missing because I don't want to go out to drinks, but I need to go. I have to go. I should go. If I don't go, something may happen. So it's that missing piece that people are struggling to find and trying to fill it with all of the things of the world. And the piece that's missing is this spiritual connection, this grounding that you have a spirit. It's part of who you are in essence, but it's not active. And once you discover, you find this when you get into a relationship, into an intimate relationship or family relationship. That's what the piece is that holds all that together. It's that spiritual recognition that, I'm more than who I am, man, worker, husband, provider. I am also the glue in my relationship, and that glue is the spiritual part.
What's interesting is I hear you talk about that. I think what I realized was that these weren't these are just fellow real estate agents in my brokerage. And it's not that I didn't enjoy them. I had fun with them on the surface. And a couple of them I was, somewhat close to. I think what I started to realize, and I talk about this a lot in the mental and purpose world, is I started to realize that I was replaceable and that spiritual awakening was starting to come. It was starting to bubble up and it was tapping on me. And I thought to myself, this version of you is replaceable. And if you keep jacking around with this, getting the outside world to fill your inside world and get fulfillment from that, then where else you're going to be replaceable, which almost happened, is as a husband. And then guess what? You're not going to be replaced as a dad. You're going to get substituted as a dad. You'll still always be dad, yet whoever your ex-wife marries and moves into the house that you're going to pay for, by the way, that's going to be dad every day, because the court system isn't going to let your kids go to you because you're a little crazier than your wife, you know? And so you're replaceable there. And so there's a domino effect that I was going through at that time, fighting between these two worlds of I want to be loved and liked and accepted and approved of and a part of the crowd. Yet I also want to find out why the hell I'm here on this planet so I'm not wasting time. And that was a giant resistance for me that was years that I went through that, until one day there was a knock on the door, which was, hey, I don't think this marriage is working anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe it's time to make some changes here. And I wound up making some changes and becoming very obsessed with personal development and growing who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all fear the unknown, right? Whatever that may be. And so when you're describing that process that you were experiencing, right, and you are in that situation with the brokers and the other people in the office, and you're all of a sudden discovering that you're replaceable, you're discovering that the things that camaraderie gives you is just not quite enough. And
it's pretty hollow. It was pretty hollow.
Well, that's it. Then you start to realize I'm chasing all of the things that I thought I wanted, but they're not doing for me what I'm really needing. You know, I've got all the material things and all the possessions, but there's something missing. And what's missing is balance. And once we have the balance, then all of a sudden our relationships take on an entirely different, they level up, right? It becomes, I'm a provider, but I also have these other roles of husband or wife or mother or child, or, you know, I have different roles that I'm responsible for now. And the material is one aspect of it, so that everybody has what we need and what we want. But, you know, it's interesting. Women are more grounded than men just by nature. And that's why they're mothers, is they have that mothering nature and nurture that men don't have. And so they recognize issues a lot faster and a lot sooner than a man will. A man will, you know, I'm working and I'm providing and I'm doing all these things, and she's knocking on, you know, tapping on his shoulder going, you know, there's more to you bringing home the paycheck. And we don't see it that way. We think as long as we can provide, you know, as men, we are fulfilling our purpose. And our number one purpose and our number one goal is to provide for our families. And yet, you know, as that slips away, we don't want to admit that it's slipping away. And we don't want to say, well, why is it slipping away? You know, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do for my purpose as a man. But what's missing? And what's missing is that balance, and that balance, you know, is sparked and becomes part of our lives, becomes alive when we understand, you know, not only am I human, I'm also spiritual. I'm also a spirit in a human body. So when we get that balance and when we get that recognition, then we go, oh, okay, now I see what was missing. Now the question becomes, what do I do about it? You know, how do I get spiritually grounded? The easiest way to get spiritually grounded is to reconnect and rekindle our intimate relationships with our spouse, with our partner. Because that's, you know, when we started dating, that you complete me idea and thought was part of the infatuation of this new love, this new person in our life, right? They completed us. That was sort of the grounding beginning of us as a couple. And yet, you know, as you grow and as you get into the marriage and as you get into building a life together, that sort of takes a back seat. That's why, you know, what do they call it? Date night. You know, it's so important. You actively try to rekindle that you complete me thought and concept. But you can't do it unless, you know, you're spiritually grounded. Once you get spiritually grounded, that comes to life again. It blossoms because you start to see, I need to be more of who I am and who I need to be. I need to be the breadwinner, but I need to be a good father. I need to be a good husband. I need to be a good neighbor. I need to be civil and polite and work with the people I work with and do my best to help everyone succeed. But, my purpose now, my focus becomes something greater than that. I have to look outside of myself. And that's what spiritual grounding does. It allows you to look outside of yourself to see your world in a clearer light.
So I want to ask you, how does someone get spiritually grounded? I think that's the obvious question. I just want to point something out to the audience. You kept saying like, there's something missing. There's something missing. I went through that and I talked to a lot of guys who have aligned with their true calling, true purpose, path, whatever you want to call it. Every morning I literally wake up and go, this can't be it. And I would say it out loud. My wife would go again. And I go, this can't be it. This cannot be it. This cannot be what my life is about. This can't be. It can't be that I'm jockeying for a listing for $300,000 in Baltimore, Maryland. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like, this is what I'm supposed to do with my whole life. My whole purpose on this planet is to be a replaceable real estate agent. And anybody that gets offended by that, you're replaceable as a real estate agent. Get over it. There are some incredible agents that aren't replaceable and they've made themselves irreplaceable. Yet that was scary for me, thinking about like my spirit, my soul is crying out, please change course here, dude. And I'm consciously saying, this can't be it. And for anybody that's listening who says that to themselves, like, is this really all? I mean, is this for real? This is the life that I'm supposed to live? Follow that path, right? So how does someone get spiritually grounded?
Well, the first thing we do is we have to recognize that we are in our core essence, in our origination, we are simply an electrical unit as part of the cosmos, as part of the universe. And if you believe there is a God, regardless of what you call that entity, if you believe there's a higher source, a greater power outside of ourselves, and that power is spirit, and that power, that spirit is the creator of what's here, even if it's random and haphazard, it had an origination point, and that happened for a reason. So if you believe there's a God and he is spirit or she is spirit, and that entity created who we are because we are also spirit, because we're part of him, then we innately already have a spiritual connection to that power, to that outside source that's greater than us. So the question becomes, how do I reconnect with that source? Well, depending on what your religious belief is or your spiritual belief or path is, there is an entity that you recognize as God. And the way you reconnect with that is through the master of that spiritual path. Buddha, Muhammad, Christ, Krishna, whoever the human master is who taught and shared the secrets or the mysticism of the universe and its creation, is the one who the followers of that master look to. And you get involved with, you study, bring into your life those teachings that master shared. And that's how you get spiritually grounded. You learn about the master and his philosophical teachings about creation and our relationship to creation. And that's where you get spiritually grounded. Once you've gotten that spiritual grounding, you then begin to understand the relationship between you and that source outside of you.
That's a really great explanation. I've never heard it put like that. You know what I always wonder? I went to Catholic school. This is kind of it's off topic. Why? I'm just so curious about these things. So it's the source, then the master, like a Muhammad, a Buddha, Jesus, and then the guys underneath him that basically wrote everything down and documented it. I always wondered, and I got in trouble in Catholic school for asking these questions. Like, one, why was it only those very select few people that were the channel from the source? One, and I just want your opinion. And two, when these guys are walking through the desert, right? And they're low on food and they're dehydrated and it's hot and they're recounting stories. Do we ever, or like when you were in theology, did you ever have that variable that these guys may have been just like off their rocker or hallucinating or just dead tired and transcribing things? Well, what happened and or, you know, out of their minds or something, or on a plant medicine or whatever it might be. Do you ever account for that? I'm just curious.
That's an interesting question. All of those masters had an esoteric connection to the source. Okay. I can't explain, how or why they were chosen for whatever reason, but they were selected to impart fundamental morals and ethics. You see, here's the issue. When we come into this world, we basically know right from wrong, because as spirit from God, his character, her character, and nature is morals and ethics. We live in a world that is grounded in legalities. Our legal system, every society's legal system is based on right and wrong, but it's applied as reward and punishment. About age 2, we all start to understand what reward and punishment is and how it connects to what is right and what is wrong. And because we grow up with that concept of right and wrong, reward and punishment, everything we do, all the choices we make and the decisions that we make are fundamentally about, well, what's right in this situation and what's wrong, what's the reward and what's the punishment. And because a person is not spiritually grounded, that's their focus, right and wrong, reward and punishment. When you get spiritually grounded, what happens is you start to see the truth of the world. And when you see the truth of the world, then you can see the truth in your own life and your own responses and your own behavior. And once you identify truth, you start to see the moral and the ethical implications of your choices or your decisions. So it's not just, well, is this, in my best interest? Is this right for me? What's the reward? What's the punishment? All of a sudden, this choice that I have to make, what are the ramifications, the moral and ethical outcomes for the people who I am, involved with in this relationship? So to get back to your question, all of those masters were selected or chosen for whatever reason to impart to the world moral and ethical judgments and behavior. If you think about the history of man, there wasn't a lot of morality or ethics involved for thousands of years, except in the Jewish culture and the Jewish religion. That's a whole nother episode. But once they've been enlightened, as Buddha was, as Muhammad was, as Krishna was, once they've been enlightened to this moral and ethical dilemma of response and action, what they did was they turned around and they taught others. They taught the followers that you just spoke of. Now, they didn't really write anything down, right? All of that was oral teaching. So they taught about morals and ethics, to the people who were interested and followed them. when they died, when they passed from this world, somebody had to step in the void and take the reins of power, so to speak. And what we find is they started to write down all of the teachings so that they would have it, recorded. But you also find that the vacuum that's left by the master leaving, there's certain people who want to take that position of authority. And there's usually more than one. And so there becomes a power struggle between the followers. What you find is many of the followers are not on that same level of understanding and distribution of knowledge. And what they do is they start to get, well, what's in it for me if I'm the boss, And we've seen this in evangelical Christianity through the last 50 years, with a lot of different TV evangelists who say one thing and behave entirely differently, not just the leaders, but Christians as well.
Sure.
That's another episode. But once that power, passes to the followers, well, somebody's going to have to step up. So we get the Pope, right? All of a sudden we have the Pope and the lineage of the Pope. But these are just men. And because they're not grounded in that same original moral and ethical dilemma and solutions, the power struggle starts to become as much as important as the philosophical or the religious or the spiritual struggle. Sure. And so religions start filled with power-seeking individuals who claim to be doing it for God, whoever their God may be. And all of a sudden, what we see is a manipulation or massaging of the original thoughts and the original teachings to fit into this power struggle grid. And you get religions now that are saying and teaching and prophesizing one thing, and yet even the leaders are not adhering to their own principles and mores. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happened. You have religions now who are not really religions. They're entities seeking power and money to keep thriving and keep growing. And they're using God as the excuse or the reason for their behavior. And that's why you have so many people who've fallen away from, religion and church and synagogue and mosque, and are struggling in their lives because the church or the synagogue and the mosque is telling them one thing and behaving exactly the opposite way. So the people in the pews are going, what the heck's going on here? You're telling me one thing, and then you're lambasting me with God's punishment if I don't do it, and yet you're not doing it. And so once the vacuum starts, it sucks the life out of the original teachings. Yeah. That's all.
So I want to make sure that everybody listening realizes that wasn't just a big tangent. There was purposefulness with that ask, because it's not just the job and the identity as dad or husband or provider. There's also the religious / esoteric / spiritual aspects in there that you're also serving, or that are pulling on you too, to take it's just another rope that's on you, pulling you away from the person that you are designed to be, created to be, path that you're supposed to be on. It's just another way. And so I just want to make sure that people don't think it was just a giant tangent. So last thing here, the 12 lessons of life. I really want to get a clear understanding of what those are for the audience, because I think this episode is super powerful and people are going to be writing like crazy. So let's end with that. Let's end with the 12 lessons of life.
Okay, great. Yeah, the base lesson, the first lesson is insecurity. And this is where we all are. From day one, we take our first breath and we are dependent on someone else for our life. And as we grow, that dependency grows, and all of our failures become very evident, right? And all of the reward and punishment that we get as children reinforces all of the negative stuff that we hear growing up. You're too fat, you're too short, you're too stupid, you're too whatever, right? We all come from families of dysfunction at some level. And so our formative years are grounded in this base level of insecurity. The key to the lessons is getting out of that base level. As long as the person feels, inadequate in some form or fashion that holds them back, that's where they will stay. They will stay grounded in that insecure, rejected place, and their life will be a living hell. Okay, so once
Let me ask you something
get
real quick.
out of
Real quick.
Yeah.
I just want your 1 minute answer. Do you think that there is hell on earth inside of people who are living like that?
Well, if it's not hell, it's certainly purgatory, because to
That's
live
what I mean.
your
Like
life,
trapped inside.
To live your life afraid to make choices and decisions in your best interest for whatever whatever self-sabotaging emotion or thought you have is a horrible way to live. It's like, somebody who has Alzheimer's. They're prisoners in their own mind. Yeah. A terrible way to live. And that's why you get a lot of people who are struggling in life and can't get past this place of insecurity or this place of having been bashed so severely as children that they end up in all these terrible adult situations of struggle and suffering. As long as you carry that baggage with you, it's going to be there. So the key is to get rid of the baggage. How do you get rid of the baggage? You look at yourself and you accept yourself for who you are. Yeah, I should be taller. I wish I was taller. I'm not taller. I'm moving on. And so, no one is perfect. No one has it all. Everybody is carrying baggage. Some of it we can see and some of it we can't. So you let the baggage go. You get rid of it. You say, I am who I am. I'm going at the height I am, and I'm going forward. Once you get out of that insecurity level, then you can actually tackle the things of the world, the lessons of life. So let me run through them real quickly. The next one is responsibility. The next one is reliability. The next one is dependability. The next one is accountability. And the next one is credibility. Now, if you notice these, they all have to do with world situations, right? Job situations, family situations. These are all of the fundamentals of who I am in the world, who I am as a father, who I am as a mother, who I am as a team member, who I am as an employee. These are the fundamental basic ones that keep us moving through our world and our daily lives. Okay. The next one, number 7, is risk. And this is the pivotal one, right? This is the one that challenges you to take what you've learned in the previous 6 and do something with them. Okay. Are you a dependable employee? Are you a responsible employee? Are you credible? When you are all those things in your life, then life says, okay, you've got it. You're in life 101 and you understand. Now you have to risk if you're going to go to life 101A, right? So you can either risk it or not. You can stay where you are and be the best employee and the best father and the best husband and the best neighbor and the best community member possible and live your life and enjoy it and do your best and be who you are. If you want to risk stepping outside of yourself, then you have to risk. And the next ones are the important ones. These are the female traits. This is why women are so important in our society and in our families. Number 1, trust. Or I should say number 8, trust. Number 9, commitment. Number 10, forgiveness. Number 11, truth. And number 12, love. And when you've accomplished the first 6 and you say, okay, I'm ready to grow, I'm ready to be the best I can be in my life, then you're going to deal with situations and people and events that test or challenge your ability to trust, your ability to be committed, to be commitment, your ability to forgive, your ability to come from the truth, and your ability to come from your highest loving self. And when you deal with these, then you become the best person that you can be. You live the truth, you see the truth, you only accept the truth for you in your life, and you come from your highest loving self. And when you do that, you won't have any pressure, you won't have any stress, you will enjoy your life every day, and you'll take every test and every challenge and know that it's just an opportunity for you to be a truthful and loving person. All of those other things of the world, you'll see them for what they are, and you won't be confined or imprisoned or enticed by them.
That's pretty amazing. I've never heard it put like that. I've never heard it put like that. It's well, look, I there's a lot that I have to take in here. I love learning on these episodes, and I like learning along with the audience as I kind of am a part of the interview. So I really want to give gratitude and appreciation for you being here and teaching us all this great stuff today. I really like the way you package it up. That's how I put my exercises and curriculum together, is we package it up in these little formulas so that there is no feeling and emotion. It's quantifiable. Were you credible or not credible? Were you accountable to what you said or not accountable? Very easy. You don't feel your way through that. It's one or the other. So this is great, Branch. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, Ian. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And audience, check out the show notes for all of Branch's information. All of Branch's 22 books there'll be links to them on there. And we really appreciate you listening. And before we go, I want to remind you of something. And I'm going to remind you of this every time going forward. I want you to be on purpose and become irreplaceable. And that's what we talked about today. Being replaceable is not a place to live in. You are not building a legacy. You are not doing anything to move the needle on this planet. Become irreplaceable. If you need help with that, you now know where to go. If you think that you are irreplaceable, let's give you a test. So check out the website, mentalpurpose.net, and we'll catch you on the next one.